News just in on the Brock Purdy injury front. Purdy has undergone successful surgery on his elbow, and it's the timeline that really benefits the San Francisco 49ers. You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there are having a great Friday, and you're getting set to have a fantastic weekend. And for the Niners, this is fantastic news coming in from Mike Garafolo that Brock Purdy underwent successful surgery on his elbow today. It was the anticipated UCL repair with an internal brace. The expectation is that Purdy will begin throwing in 3 months and then build up his strength from there. A couple of years ago, this is the same surgery that Nick Mullins had gotten, and it's the same timeline for Nick Mullins. It's the repair, and it's not the total reconstruction. So this allows Purdy to potentially be available in about 6 months to get ready for live game action, where he can actually partake in an actual game. If he had gotten the full reconstruction, that's the Tommy John surgery on the ulnar collateral ligament, which would have him out for about a calendar year, 12 months, and his 2023 season would go by the wayside. And then the 49ers, with free agency starting on Monday, would have massive questions at that quarterback spot. So for the Niners here, really huge news for them. Instead of that 12-month time frame, this is going to be the timeline that could have Purdy back in an area of about 6 months. Now, for me, I think it's totally unrealistic that he's going to be ready for game action come week 1 of the 2023 NFL season. I find it hard to believe that you can undergo this type of surgery, especially for a young player who displayed a lot of ability this past year, played really well in this offense. Kyle Shanahan is said to love him. From everything that I've heard and I've gathered, he thinks that he can be the quarterback for this football team. And this organization would actually rush him back from an injury that could really ruin the rest of his career. So I think that Trey Lance is going to have an opportunity with getting all of the reps in OTAs as well as in training camp to impress a lot of people within this organization and show them what they saw at North Dakota State and why they moved up to number 3 to draft him a couple of years ago. Obviously, the big storyline with Trey Lance is that he has 4 combined starts at the NFL level, and heading back to 2019 at North Dakota State and in the NFL, he has a combined 21 starts. So this offseason is pivotal for him, not just the fact that he can win quarterback 1 and be the guy for this team in 2023, but really for his entire NFL career. If he falls flat on his face, if he flounders in the open water and he can't play well and show and display the level of talent that a lot of people had saw in him at North Dakota State and at times in the NFL, then his NFL career as far as being a starter might come into jeopardy. So Lance has every opportunity to win this job, pretty much getting every single snap throughout this offseason. And if he's balling, if Trey Lance is slinging the rock, will the 49ers really rush Brock Purdy back and have him replace Trey Lance? It's a quarterback controversy that could be one of the more fascinating quarterback battles and quarterback situations in the NFL. Here you have Trey Lance, who has that lack of experience, who's 6'4", 225, solid athleticism, really strong arm. But unfortunately for him, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. He couldn't unseat Jimmy Garoppolo to be the team starter in 2021. And if finally he has an opportunity to not worry about anybody behind him because Purdy's going to be on the shelf and he plays pretty well, are the Niners really going to move off of him if he's showing them everything that they saw in him in the pre-draft process, and they're going to go with Brock Purdy instead of Trey Lance? So that's obviously fascinating as we project into the future. If Lance does fall flat on his face, that's on him. He has a golden opportunity to seize the moment and lock down this quarterback 1 role. If he's the starter week 1 and throughout the season, it won't surprise me, but he has to be a little bit more consistent with his accuracy. He has to be a little bit more consistent with his completion percentage and just running this offense. Kyle Shanahan has made this be known that in his offense, he wants a guy who can play point guard, distribute the football, get the ball out quickly, accurately, don't turn the rock over, Because what is this offense predicated on? Obviously, it's the outside zone scheme with how Shanahan likes to run the football and all the creativity and the wrinkles that go into some of his play calling and his play designs. But also, you look at the elements and the weapons on this Niners team. It's Deebo Samuel, it's Brandon Ayuk, it's George Kittle, it's Christian McCaffrey. In throwing them the football, with this scheme, you open up opportunities for them to pick up yards after the catch. And if they're running right across the middle and they have to adjust to an inaccurate football, or they have to adjust and reach behind them on an errant throw, that takes away the possibility of them picking up yards after the catch. And that's where Lance has struggled. That's where he has to get a little bit better. As for how this Purdy surgery impacts the rest of the Niners offseason, it really does dictate the Niners' search for a quarterback and the quarterback market right now. I do not think now that they're going to sign a marquee veteran or they're going to trade for a Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers or another splashy trade candidate. I still think that they're going to go after a veteran backup quarterback type, a guy like an Andy Dalton, a Case Keenum, a Cooper Rush, a Taylor Heineke, a player of that ilk, because Purdy is basically going to be unavailable for much of training camp and the entire offseason, for that matter. So you're going to have a guy behind Trey Lance, and that guy cannot be a player like Josh Johnson. There has to be a veteran who's a little bit more accomplished, who, if you go into a situation like you had, unfortunately, in the NFC Championship game where your top two quarterbacks get injured, or in this case for the Niners, you had Garoppolo, Lance, and Purdy all get injured, and you have to turn to a guy like Josh Johnson. You can't run into that scenario. You have to have somebody like an Andy Dalton or a Matt Ryan who can step in and at least be competent and not have their hands trembling at Lincoln Financial Field like Josh Johnson had. So I don't think that the Niners are going to trade for a big-time quarterback. I think it's going to be more of a veteran now, because Purdy will be expected to be available at some point as we get closer to the regular season. As for what Purdy showed last year, this is why Kyle Shanahan is impressed by him. Throw out where he was drafted. Mr. Relevant, final pick in the NFL draft. If he played like he did last year and he was drafted in the first or second round, people and their opinions would be much different about Brock Purdy. Guy went 5-0 in the regular season, pretty much 6-0, because Garoppolo against the Dolphins got injured very early in that game. 2 more wins in the playoffs, 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, I thought he played solid football. Look, against Seattle, he started slow. He misfired on a couple of tosses, but then he made some adjustments. He settled in. Once his feet got wet, he looked to be a lot more comfortable. And then that offense was humming. And that's why they put up a massive number on the scoreboard. So for him to settle in, make the adjustments against a Pete Carroll defense, I thought that was really impressive. He really finished that game strong and played good football. And the Niners offense, with him as the starter, it averaged nearly 30-plus points per game. And it was impressive for them to have that offensive output. And then against the Dallas Cowboys, was Purdy great against Dallas? No, he was not by any means. But the Niners got a big win against a really good defense and a pretty solid team. And like that Seattle game, what did Purdy do? Started off a little rocky. At the end of the game, though, when the Niners needed to drive down the field, when they needed to move the chains in a critical spot, when they needed Purdy to deliver a big throw, he did that. He did it with some stones. He did it with some gusto. He did it with some swagger. And I think that rubbed off on a lot of his teammates. Him being a gamer impressed this entire coaching staff. And also shout out to Kyle Shanahan and Brian Gracie for developing Brock Purdy and having him ready to play like he was. But shout out to Purdy as well for seizing the moment. Trey Lance has had some opportunities. He hasn't really taken advantage of it. Now, yes, week 1, it wasn't ideal that he played in a monsoon against Chicago. But last year had some opportunities, did some nice things. And then for Lance, after that week 1 monsoon, he got hurt in week 2. But for Purdy, I really did think that he took advantage of the opportunity. And he really grabbed it by the ball, so to speak, and was able to take advantage of it and help lead this team to an NFC Championship game. Wish Purdy would have been able to play in that NFC title game I wish he was able to stay healthy. I do think that the 49ers matched up very well against that Eagles defense. We saw that Eagles defense struggle against the Kansas City Chiefs. That potent offense and some of the creativity from Andy Reid. You know Kyle Shanahan was going to be in his bag with Brock Purdy if he was able to stay healthy in that NFC title game. Unfortunately, though, for the Niners, snake bitten by that Purdy injury. Everything I've heard to round things out, Shanahan loves Purdy. He thinks that he could be a great quarterback for this system and for this team. I think it's pretty telling that his teammates do speak glowingly of him like they do. And they say, look, this guy came in, had command of the locker room, had command of the huddle, had command of this offense. It's considered to be a very complex offense. And Purdy didn't really have any difficulties. Now, Shanahan, I thought, put him in a position to succeed with some easy throws, easy reads, got the ball to his playmakers out in space. But it's also up to Purdy to be accurate with the football and to hit his guys in stride so they can matriculate down the field and come through with some of those explosives. So with the Niners, to really round things out, successful surgery for Brock Purdy. It's going to be that 6-month timeline, hopefully, and hopefully there are no setbacks. But at the very least, we know it's not going to be that 12-month recovery. There's going to be that internal brace in there, and it's the hybrid surgery that is not a complete reconstruction. It is going to be a repair for Brock Purdy. Make sure you subscribe to the show. The news was dropped from NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. We had a video right away. Successful surgery for Brock Purdy. More videos to come over the weekend. Free agency starting on Monday. You know it's going down.